Okay, so I just wanted to show off a little bit of what I've been working on here. This is been quite the challenge here, and I think I'm ready to show off how this stuff works. So on the left here, you get this table here, and what I've been trying to do is get it to so that I can have like the name there and declare that to a variable, and then have items. And that's on the left side, and then these are all on the right side, but more to it than that. So like if they all have a common denominator, kind of like in my other video, get them all to pipe through there so that if they are quite repetitive, I don't have to copy and paste that over and over. I could just use the least common or most common denominator and remove that. So that's what that all is right there, but then also shorthanding the author part there, and that's right there. But anyway, this is just a side point. What I really wanted to show off is how this works. So this has been a pretty long-winded process, but I feel like I'm at the end of developing this. So right here, in fact, what I'm going to do is this. I want to pull. Where did it go? What do I do with it? No. I think this is what I wanted. All right. I got a lot of stuff open, I know. Okay, so what I want to do is this. So what I have here, this is all in a final version now, but all these functions work together. They can work separately, but they're all meant to display this stuff here. And all this gobbledygook that you see here is the only other word for it is insanity, but this is all calculus. It's just a lot of measuring how far or how long an object is. So if you look at this table here, it's 116 characters across, and then I try to use patterns. It's rather late, so I'm a little short on words here, but the name of the game is basically if there's a pattern, to try to repeat that instead of having to flat out copy and paste and stuff. So like I could just copy and paste that and bam, there it is. But how can I create that from program? So that's what all that stuff is right there. Now, to anyone who doesn't really understand programming, this is all going to look like Chinese, but here's where it becomes practical. So if I show you all this stuff here is a module that I made because I had a bunch of these, and I'll show you in this one here. So this module 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've been able to put all 9 of these into one function, which is right here. So if I wanted to, let's say I want to write an action, say write echo action, and then let's say type things happening on the screen. Actually, that's going to be too long. Info on the screen here, you will see. So that's all done dynamically, and that one's pretty simple because that's literally that long. But the ones that are a little bit more difficult, even the array one's pretty easy because that's already an array that's made. But one that was pretty difficult was trying to get this hash table to work correctly. So if you look at it, you see that it's got this top thing here, and that's all mathematics. That's all this right here. So if I select this and I hit that, so bam, there it is, and that's all the math going into that. So between all of these being presets, because that's the beginning of the parameter, as soon as I select all these and I hit that, and then it recreates that without having to type out all of that. So being able to do all of this from just these instructions here, in addition to just some prerequisites here, but a lot of these can be cleaned up. I haven't any intention to get into that, but that's just the top part. And then you see this name here, so that's the section, or that's the title of the table. So if I start going through my script and I run through I have a few tables that show up that show information on the screen, so that whoever's running the program can see what it's actually accessing or doing. But what you see here is you see a section. So this is the header. This is only one table, but it can also do multiple tables too. So I'll show you how that works. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is. So what I'll do is bring this over. Well, I should be able to run it here. So yeah, it just made that. And so what this is basically trying to make this as dynamic as possible. So if you look at this here, this is sort of how HTML and XAML work, and I have explained that in another video. What I'm attempting to do here is create a table that can work in this, but it'll also work like as a GUI. So all these things will populate in the GUI, and this has a common denominator, so that could be removed and changed and whatnot. But more to it than all that. I can also let's change the way it colorizes it. So I could just keep changing this here. Do like whichever colors. PowerShell doesn't have a really vibrant scale for colors, but you get some pretty cool looking stuff when you think of a way to do it. But okay, let's show you the flag, I guess. Right, echo free wrap f 10 b 0. So that's my company logo and the flag. I went through and I modified it quite a bit. I can remove the wrap feature and I'll show you the original. But yeah, all this is based on math. So there's that. The date's also going to change as to the day. So like if it's 9/17, it's not going to stay 9/16. It'll update automatically every time it's run. Before I had to change that all the time, and I was looking to get to that, but yeah, I don't know. I did all this with math here, so like you can see that this has quite a lot of patterns to it, but I'll show you how the math works for that. Here it is. So what this is it's sort of like a secondary function begin parameter like this block here, and then what it does is kind of like filters out more common denominators, and then it puts it out to that. So all the strings that you see in here, I could change any of that, and it'll change it automatically. I've yet to get it to be scalable and such, but I'm not worried about that right this moment. Now, I can't really explain what all this is here. The best thing I can do is that sometimes things wind up looking like this when you're trying to make things less redundant, or to compact them. And I could have even gone further with it, but I probably spent more time than I should have doing this. But I did it for a reason, because I am. This is like symbolic of all the work that I've been doing, the reason and the motivation behind it all. Beginning the fight against technological tyranny and cyber criminal activities. So, part of the reason why I started focusing on programming with PowerShell was there's a lot that you can do with PowerShell, like system management wise, but also like inventory, networking, security, things of that nature. And I noticed that I had a lot of customers that were getting ripped off and scammed, and I started developing this idea that I wanted to help people out and eliminate problems before they happened, which pretty tall order, let me tell you. You have to jump into things like hash codes and whatnot, and being able to run services and stacking. I can't really fully explain it right now, but there's quite a lot of work that goes into making sure things are secure. But the best case I can make here is this. So let's say I one way to get the hash code is just by doing that. But, what I was going to say is, if I do this, get file hash, and then algorithm SHA-256, I'll do that. Oh, I gotta put the path. My bad. Let me. I don't want to confuse people, so what I'm going to do is this. File equals that. Alright, so this is the name of the game here. This is a hash code, and it's like unique to that file. If I change anything in this file and I save it, in fact, why don't I do that now? See how it's totally different? I could add a space and then save it again. And see how it's totally different. All I did was just add a space, but that signature is different now. All the files on your computer have a hash code that works in that manner. All of them. So if you can actually catalog a system that can maintain hash values for any file that you, I don't know, I could probably remove that space and then save it again. It might have the old code. I doubt it though. Oh yeah, look at that. It does. So if it's the same exact file or information, then I guess the hash will be the same. But part of what makes security so challenging is that all it really takes to screw up anyone's day is to add that space there, and then this file won't have the same hash code. And it's not really legible either. I mean, it's not like saying, hey, this is the date, this is the time, this is where it was made, and this is the CPU that it was made with, and the hard drive and everything. All that information is in that code, but it's like, it's compressed, like that is. Not in the same manner. This is like a, I want to say it's random, but it's not random. It's all based on ones and zeros, basically. But anyway, yeah, I don't have too much more to show off, but what I did want to show was, here's how it looks before you start looking for common denominators. Now I skipped the step and I don't have it here, but as you start to, like, you know, filter out, hey, this is kind of like the same thing in a whole bunch of rows. So you start to take those things out and you add them like after the fact. And then as you're like deconstructing it, you might want to, you know, add some spaces so you can kind of see where you're at. But I can tell you that, like, this right here winds up becoming something like this, which isn't too different, by the way. But then it eventually looks like that. And you can go even further. Like, I could, you know, what I could do is there's this character right here. It's an upper score, which is the opposite of a underscore. And then there's spaces, there's slashes, and there's strings, which are defined here. There's a lot going on there, and it's not all exactly the same, but, you know, as long as you know what it is that you're shooting for, you can do stuff like this to, it's not necessarily even really obfuscation. Some people might call it that, but obfuscation is more of like you're trying to keep people from being able to understand it, much less trying to compress it. But I guess you could say it's the same thing. What really gets my knickers in a jam is when, see how all of my functions here, I have them all kind of like within this side of the window, and what I'll do is I'll put it into, I'll zoom in so anyone who's got a screen that doesn't have a high DPI or can't really see, I zoomed in so you can kind of see what's going on here. The way I do my programming is I like to only use a certain percentage of the screen, and then, you know, try to use that as a limitation that helps me to keep things coherent and visible. And I also like to add in spaces. A lot of people don't do that. Like if I let me open up a new tab here. J. Okay, so all right. So right out of the gate here, this is automatically putting things like right next to each other, and I would never write my code like this. So when I see code that looks just like this, I can tell that it started with that shortcut key, which is Control J. In case you know, people are watching this, they didn't know that. Left Control and J will bring up this block here. Desired state configuration simple. Using configuration data. So this is sort of what I've been working on, but this is kind of more into processing a script that does that. I don't really ever use this. In fact, I never ever even think to use this. In fact, I don't know what that does. But no big deal. When I edit my code, I like to make sure that the stuff is kind of, you know, split. And not only that, but lined up. A lot of times when I'm writing my command notes, I'll write them like this so that they're all on one line. But these are long names here. I can tell you, a lot of people don't use all of these. In fact, like I said, when I see a script that looks just like this, and if it looks just like that, I can tell that it was kind of like automatically generated, like I just showed you. But when I write my own code, I don't do that. I write all this. I don't use anything to automatically inject that stuff. I write it on the fly. But I guess I could talk about what this is or does here. So this is, the function name is write echo. This is a commandlet. It's like a super commandlet basically. But position 0 means that if I start to write out a command, echo, and I say dash, and then it's going to pull up action array table free foot type info wrap. Now, for whatever reason, I'm going to have to jump into this, but some of these shouldn't be showing up until I hit one of these three, or one of these here. These two here are that's the flag that I showed you, and then that's oh, I didn't show you that one. Okay, so as you can see, I like the black and green, but you don't have to use that. You can use whichever color you feel comfortable with if you want to. You don't even have to use the background color, you can just use the foreground. That one's a little hard to read. That one's kind of a, I don't know. So it's using digits right now. I still have to figure out, like, I don't know how to get it to do the digits and the color names, and maybe I just have to add it in there. But what I hate about this is that I can't do this unless I can. Yeah, see. So that kind of sucks. Excuse me. But anyway, this is a switch which will bring up an action. So write action echo action stuff. So when you use these positional parameters, you don't have to type in the actual it'll assume what parameter those variables need to go to. Yeah, I am definitely tired. Sorry if I'm a little sluggish today, but I wanted to talk about this because this has been kind of a long time coming here. This is going to help me finish my project in a lot less time, I think. The name of the game was to anything that shows up in the console, I'd be able to make like an XAML object with it, and I talked about that in a previous video that I made a couple weeks ago, and I'll show you how that works briefly because I'm getting pretty tired. I added these to my module so that I don't have to have them in each individual script. Right there, down here. I have them all in every single script, so having that in every single script is kind of a pain in the neck. This is an offshoot of Oliver Lipkow's outfile ini function that he wrote like 10 years ago. The way he was doing it was a little redundant, so I kind of made it work a little bit better and added some more switching and stuff. I think there's a couple things that aren't working fully, but it's alright. It works for what I need it to. The main reason I made this was because in MDT you have this file called bootstrap .ini and custom settings.ini, and rather than to constantly edit the ini file or to go into MDT in general, I thought to, hey, why don't I create it dynamically. And the problem with that approach is that once you change the bootstrap ini file, you have to recompile your images, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I think it's about it. Oh yeah, I want to show you the XAML stuff. So if you look here, in fact, why don't I do this? I don't think it's going to collect the graphics. Yeah, I know. It's not. So it won't work because of that. I have the graphics. I have the script looking out to the internet, which is kind of looking out to my own server for the graphics. But the way this all works is in XAML, usually you have like Titan strings and stuff, and yeah, it looks like it takes up a lot of space when it's like this. So kind of a pain in the neck. But there's I see patterns here, and I'm trying to make it so that the function that I showed you will be able to add in all these values dynamically, so that I could just use an array for all the stuff on this side, and not even really have to worry about stuff on this side, because that'll all be populated automatically. But the hash table, this HTML and XAML basically is a hash table. It's just converted into markup language. So what I'm trying to say is that there's no reason that you couldn't be able to do something like this. What the heck? Alright. There's no reason you couldn't do something like this. So now I open up a hash table, and then I'm going to say window, which is the first value that you see there. This is the part that kind of like gets on my nerves. This is that I'm not really sure if I want to name the actual object window instead of XAML, and then as you go in, you have to figure out if everything's going to be under window. So if everything will be under window, then you just start with that as the variable you want to open, and then XML namespace, and then enter that value in. See, yeah, PowerShell prompt goes way too far on that stuff. Where like I do that and it jumps all the way over characters that I wanted to target. But as you can see, what I'm trying to do here is I'm basically making an object, and that's all that is right there. It's just that this is all turned into strings. So like as I go through and I shorten where things are and things of that nature, yeah, I'm definitely getting tired. I hope you're starting to see what I'm doing here. I'm not going to spend too long doing this, but this this is often what it takes to be able to write programs well, is to make sure that all this stuff is easily editable, rather than to hard code it into an exe that you have to recompile every time. That's the great thing about PowerShell in general, is that there's no compile time. You can do C++ programming, you can also do C#. I'd go so far as to say is that PowerShell and C# are just, they're the same thing, but PowerShell is more dynamic than C#. C# you have to do a lot of typecasting and scoping, which isn't too dissimilar from what PowerShell does, but you know, it seems like PowerShell is a lot easier to use or write with, and it stays more current because it's not static. C# is typically, if you're making driver libraries or assemblies, then that's when you want to use C# or C++. But anyway, that's the end of my video. I'm done. I'm going to sleep now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and take care.